What's up? I'm the Calcara 131, and this is my final full review of the Holosun 508T. So the Holosun 508T is, if you haven't seen my initial impressions video, I think it's the second video I ever did on this channel like 5 months ago. I'll get into why it took 5 months to do a 2,000 round review process. But if you haven't seen my first impressions video, I'll link it up here. Definitely go check it out. It goes over what I thought of it when I very first got it out of the box, and I go over a lot of the technical details and the specs of it. So if you want to get a lot of the technical details, you can do that. Go watch my initial impressions video. Or, you know, you could always go to the Holosun product page, which I'll also link in the description. So you can go check that out and see all of their tech specs, their tech page, their technical specifications page, and you can see all the technical details. But the Holosun 508T, I'm sure many of you have probably heard of it by now, but the 508T, this one, is basically a upgraded, newer version of the 507C that they came out with a year and a half, I don't know how long ago, a little while ago. They came out with the 507C, which, as near as I can tell, these two are the exact same, except this one has a housing made out of grade 5 titanium. So it's a lot tougher, and that's really the big selling point on it. The 508T, the T stands for titanium, so it's a really durable, really rugged optic. I didn't do any torture testing on this besides a couple one-handed reloads off my holster and my belt, but that was all I really did. If you want to see some real torture testing on this, I'm going to link up here and in the description again the review that Sage Dynamics did. Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics did. He did he's really the go-to, for me anyway, when it comes to red dot testing, because unlike me and a lot of other gun YouTubers that I do like otherwise, when it comes to red dot testing, a lot of them don't actually torture them or push them at all. They just put them on a rifle and shoot them. Unlike that, Sage Dynamics actually really pushes them. He does a 500 round burn down, what he calls it. He shoots 500 rounds through the weapon as quick as he can to see if the accelerated life cycle and the heat has any problems. And every 500 rounds, he does a drop test directly onto concrete. So for his 2,000 round review process, he drops the 508T 4 times, and it cracks a little bit, but by the end it's still working and still holds 0. The same with the 507C. So like I said, if you want to see, well, frankly, a better review than mine, definitely go check out Aaron Cowan's video on it, which again, I'm linking in the description or up top. Go check it out. He does it a lot better than me, and he's actually willing to torture it and see how much it can take. Last little thing I want to say about durability. If any of you are really worried about the durability of the 508T, I hope I can allay that worry by saying that Aaron Cowan, again, he has tested a lot of the big name, a lot of the big micro red dots on the market. The 507C, the 508T, the Acro, the RMR Type 2, I think he's done one for both, the Delta Point. He's done one for a lot of different micro red dots. So for one, he has a system down and set in place for how he does it, but he has a lot of experience actually testing out and using different versions of a pistol-mounted red dot. So he has a lot of experience with these different micro red dots, and because of that, he has the experience to actually kind of rate them. And his top 3 for actual duty-rated optics that he's tested and abused and thrown through the ringer, and they still work and they still hold up, his top 3, in no particular order, but the top 3 are the RMR, the Aimpoint Acro, and the Holosun 507C. The 507C, the forerunner to the 508T, is in his top 3 for duty-rated optics. He recently, I'll try to throw in a picture from his Instagram if I can find it, but he recently, recently. He passed 10,000 rounds on his 507C, and it's still holding up. Despite the cracking he did in the first 2,000 round review process, it still holds zero, it's still working, and that is what made him say that the 507C is duty rated. And I believe he even said in his 508T review that he has no doubts that the 508T is going to supplant the 507C once he gets the rounds down on it. Simply because, as I said earlier, this 508T is basically the same exact thing as the 507C, but with a tougher titanium housing. So that entire tangent was, if you're really worried about the durability, I wouldn't be. For how durable your standard micro red dot is going to be, the 508T is pretty much in there with the best. So I have spent about 5 months getting just over 2,000 rounds through this. And yes, some of it is because ammo, and my current job is not the best. So ammo cost is one of them, but honestly more than that is the fact that I had a lot of problems keeping this thing mounted. I had problems keeping this mounted, and I'm pretty sure my review of the C&H Precision adapter plate should be out before the review for this 508T. So I'll link up here my journey with the C&H Precision adapter plate. I'm not going to go into too many details on it. I'm going to cover my entire journey with it in its own video. Suffice to say, other people have had great luck with them. I didn't. I had nothing but problems with mine, multiple methods of attaching it. I got it straight from their shop. I had to send it in to get the battery replaced. I got the entire slide, actually. The entire slide with their plate and the optic remounted from them in their shop. Still started to come loose. So, moral of the story, it took a long time to get this review finished because I couldn't keep this thing fully seated and mounted on this Glock 45 MOS. Spoiler alert, not really spoiler alert, but I ended up just going with a standard Glock MOS attachment system, and it's working perfectly fine. However, I can happily say that after all of the loosening and starting to come off from the C&H plate and all of the shooting I've done with it, I'm around 2,500 rounds at this point. It's still holding up perfectly fine, and it still shoots great. So I originally zeroed this at 10 yards with some Spear Gold Dot 124 plus P. And as I said, because of the constant loosening and having to retighten it, doing different methods of retightening, I had to re-zero it 1 or 2 times on the C&H plate. However, I can say that whenever I got it back from the factory, the zero was way to the left. So I had to re-zero it again. And then it started to come loose again the final time after I got it back from them. Again, go watch the video for full details on the C&H plate and my story with that. But long story short, as far as the zeroing goes, eventually I got it zeroed up on this Glock MOS plate. I got it zeroed. I'll roll in a picture here. The group on the left should be my grouping with the Spear Gold Dot 124 plus P rounds that I zeroed it with. And on the right should be 5 rounds each of Tula and Wolf, which is my preferred practice ammo because it's cheap and it works. So as you can see, even with, it's from 10 yards by the way, but even with that crappy ammo that a lot of people don't like because it's cheap Russian ammo, even with that, you know, it was plenty accurate. As you can see, 10 yards, it destroyed that ring that I was shooting for. So perfectly accurate, and that's with me shooting it. And I'm not a very good bullseye shooter. I'm not. I still have a little bit of a flinch. I anticipate the shot. This trigger is the Halo Strategic Skimmer, and it's really nothing special. It's not. It's a slightly polished and slightly marginally better Glock factory trigger. It's not anything amazing. It's not a competition trigger. So, yeah, despite all of those issues, it's still pretty damn accurate at 10 yards with that when I bench rested it. So, it's pretty accurate. I do like the reticle options. As I said in my initial impressions video, the Holosun, it comes with, this is one of the elite models, and it comes with a lot of their the features that make them unique. So it comes with the multiple reticle system. You can get just a 2 MOA dot. You can get a 2 MOA dot with a 32 MOA ring. Basically a smaller pistol version of the EOTech reticle, or you can get just the 32 MOA ring. So you can just switch through them, whichever one you like more. I settled on the circle dot simply because if you're doing anything close up, anything quick, just put the big circle over the target and squeeze the trigger. That's all you gotta do. But if you prefer just a single dot, you can do that. Other features that it has, because it's an elite version, it has their solar panel on top, their solar backup, which is great in theory, but I don't actually use it, because when you have it in the automatic mode, which is the solar mode, whenever there's enough ambient light, it will run the optic off of the solar panel. Whenever there's not enough, it resorts to the battery, which is a great feature, but it also automatically adjusts the reticle, which I'm not a fan of. I don't like the fact that if I was shooting somewhere dim into somewhere light, my reticle will get washed out because it's adjusted to how dim it is where the optic is. I don't like the idea that middle of the night, I hear glass breaking, I pick it up because it's dark, my reticle is going to be dim, I have to turn the flashlight on, then it's probably going to get washed out because it's set up for how dim the room is before the flashlight comes on. That's another feature I don't like about it. I like it in theory. If they could get that set up without the automatically adjusting reticle, that'd be great. But I don't actually use it for what it's worth. They quote, while I'm on the subject of solar panel and battery life and everything, with the solar panel, I believe they quote up to like 100,000 hours, because anytime you're in bright enough sunlight, it's going to run on its own. You don't even really need the battery. With just the battery on the 2 MOA dot with a medium setting, they quote 50,000 hours, basically the industry standard really nowadays. With the circle dot, I'm pretty sure they quote 20,000, I believe. So even with the the lowest rating, it's still multiple years. And considering most people I know change their batteries and their optics and flashlights yearly, the battery life is perfectly fine. I have no issues with it. Well, I did have one issue with the battery life, and that was at some point after I got it, I had noticed that the reticle was blinking, and as I suspected, I checked the manual. Flashing reticle means that the battery is low, and this was only a couple months after I got it, so that's kind of suspicious. I don't know how long the optic was sitting in a warehouse before I bought it, so it could be the battery was just old. But that is actually, little side story, that's actually how I ended up having to send this back into the factory, because I couldn't get the optic back off when I mounted it using red Loctite. I know it was a stupid decision, and I'll go over more of that in the C&H video. But moral of the story, I had to send it in to C&H to get them to replace the battery only a couple months after I had it. So I haven't had any issues with it since. It doesn't flash at all anymore because they put a new battery in it. But I did want to mention that. The last feature that the Holosun Elite line, a lot of them have, and I really like this feature, is the Shake Awake technology. The Shake Awake technology it's a motion sensor, basically. Whenever this sits for, I believe I have it set for 5 minutes, whenever it sits and it senses no movement at all, it will turn the reticle off. So if it's sitting in a dresser somewhere, in a drawer somewhere, or if it's just sitting in a safe, there's no need to have the reticle on because it's not doing anything. But as soon as it senses any movement, it turns itself on. And some of you might be worried about that. I have never been able to outrun it, and I've never been able to pick it up slow enough that it didn't sense anything. Every single time I have ever picked this up, the reticle is on. So I'm honestly not worried about that at all. I have no real reservations about it. I've heard some people say they don't like that it's, oh, that's more technology put into it, that's more likely to fail. That's kind of nitpicking at that point. Considering how much technology is already put into micro red dots like this, you're kind of complaining about not that much more technology that, from what I've seen, not really anyone's ever had a problem with. So take it for what it is. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I do. I like the fact that whenever it's just sitting in a dresser or is just sitting in a holster on on my belt in my closet, it's off. But whenever I need it, it turns on. One pretty important feature of, well, any optic really, is the glass clarity and the glass quality. And granted, I don't have a lot of experience with red dots, especially micro red dots, but I can say that the glass is great. The glass looks perfectly fine. There is a very slight almost bluish tint to it, maybe a turquoise tint, but you only really notice it when you're looking for it. When you're actually just out shooting, you don't really notice it at all. I have no issues just keeping both eyes open and putting it on a target. I don't have any problems with it being like maybe 1.1 magnification or anything like that. It seems perfectly 1x to me. I don't know what else to say about this Holosun 508T, you know? It's rugged, as I went over. Battery life is good. I like the multiple reticle options, so whichever you prefer, you can use. I like how it looks. I like it's kind of a subdued look, unlike their 507, which has their Holosun logo in white. I like that this is all blacked out. Has sort of a low-key look to it. I really like it. Once I got it mounted up correctly, I liked it. But yeah, I like the idea of the solar panel. As I said earlier, I like the idea of it. I wish they would implement it without the automatic adjusting reticle, but it is what it is. One other feature I just thought of that I actually do also like about it, all of their standard sort of micro red dots like this, they all follow the same mounting footprint as a Trijicon RMR, which undoubtedly is the industry standard, you know? The RMR, whenever people think of these, they say RMR, even though it's like saying, it's like Kleenex. It's actually a brand name, not what it actually is. The RMR is actually its own micro red dot, but it's such the industry standard that everyone just calls them RMRs. So I like that it follows the biggest available and the widest accepted footprint. The mounting holes are going to be exactly the same. So if you bought one of these and you wanted to mount it on something and you sent it off to a company to get it cut for mounting, all you'd have to do is select the Trijicon RMR mounting footprint and it would mount up perfectly fine. It's a really smart decision by them. So the Holosun Elite 508T definitely has my seal of approval. I really like it. This is my first experience with a red dot on a handgun, but it's been great. I love it, everything about it really. So what do you guys think of it? Do you have any experience with the Holosun micro red dots? Tell me in the comments down below if you what you think of them. What you think of this one, their other ones, their other models. So if you're in the market for a relatively budget micro red dot, this costs about $350, I believe, when I bought it from Kenzie's Optics. If you're in the budget, or if you're in the market for a budget-esque red dot, I would definitely look at Holosun. They're relatively cheap, but they're also pretty damn reliable, rugged, lots of nice features in them. So yeah, if you like the video, if you like the optic, give me a thumbs up. It means a lot to me. Tell me in the comments below what you think of this. Again, subscribe if you're new. I'm the Calcar 131, signing off.